Turning now to the war in Israel, Israeli troops are poised on the Gaza border, yet the ground invasion is still on hold. In his address to the Jewish nation, Prime Minister Netanyahu said the war cabinet will decide when to move. Meanwhile, the fate of more than 200 hostages still hanging in the balance. CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem.
Overnight, the IDF conducted a raid into the northern Gaza Strip, striking a number of Hamas targets to prepare the battlefield for the next stage of combat. On the ground, the soldiers say they're ready.
As far as why we're not operating, I don't know why exactly. There's rumors because of the cabinet, the prime minister, whoever. I don't care. As far as the military is concerned, we are ready, we are prepped, we have been training, and we've been overtraining, and we have been honing in our tactics, in my unit at least. And I can tell you, as far as we're concerned, we are more than ready to go in, to operate, and to get things done.
There are reports Israel is delaying the ground invasion while the U.S. moves more resources into the region to deter a widening war. Wednesday night, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation. He said the time of the ground invasion will be determined by the war cabinet and explained what's at stake.
We're concerned by one thing: saving the country, achieving victory. Our war against Hamas is a test for all of humanity. It's a fight between the Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas axis of evil and the forces of freedom and progress. Light will defeat darkness.
In Lebanon, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah met with leaders of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas, their first reported meeting since the start of the war. The Wall Street Journal also reported that as many as 500 Hamas terrorists trained inside Iran before the massacre on October 7th. In the meantime, the IDF continues to bomb Hamas targets in Gaza City. A Hamas spokesman says 6,000 Palestinians have been killed so far, a number President Joe Biden questions.
I have no notion that the Palestinians are telling the truth about how many people are killed. I'm sure innocents have been killed, and it's the price of waging a war. But I have no confidence in the number that the Palestinians are using.
Biden also believes the Hamas attack was designed to disrupt peace in the Middle East.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, just my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall. And we can't leave that work behind.
I was with her on the phone at 10:14 when she called me and said, "Mommy, I was shot." Just imagine how a mother would feel when she hears her daughter on the phone far away from her saying, "I was shot."
On Wednesday night, the Global Day of Prayer for the hostages and missing linked families and Jews around the world in prayer.
We feel the pain globally of the families that their kids were murdered, butchered, kidnapped. And we wanted to bring an evening of solidarity for Jews around the world, that they could tune in live, that they could hear the story and unite in prayer. And that's why it was so important, because we're one family and we care for one another.
It's this reliance on prayer and God's word that is a source of strength to many at this time. At the end of his speech, Netanyahu quoted the Bible.
With shared forces, with deep faith in the justice of our cause and in the eternity of Israel, we will realize the prophecy of Isaiah 60:18. Violence shall no more be heard in your land, desolation nor destruction within your borders. But you shall call your walls salvation and your gates praise.
Chris Mitchell is with us live now. We always appreciate his reporting on the ground. Chris, yesterday President Biden said, after this crisis is over, we can't return to the status quo. The focus should be on creating a two-state solution. How is that message going to be received in Israel right now?
Well, Andrew, it's not being received well at all. Some people wonder if it's wishful thinking or where President Biden's getting his intelligence. For example, in our report yesterday about the Palestinian Authority, we noted that actually that Hamas is actually more popular than the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. And so also last Friday, the imams in the West Bank were told to quote a verse from the Hadith that says, in the judgment day is coming. You have to rise up and kill Jews. So it's not being accepted much by here. You know, it's been the Biden administration is taking what other administrations have done back to the Bush administration, advocating a two-state solution, but it's never succeeded. And after October 7th, I don't think there's much appetite for that here in Israel at all.
Yeah, Chris, and also yesterday an AP photo showed that Hezbollah, Hamas, and Islamic Jihad leaders meeting together. What's the message of that meeting?
Well, I think the message right now, Andrew, is that there's coordination between all the proxy armies and groups that here in the Middle East. That would be Palestinian Islamic Jihad, a proxy of Iran, Hamas, which is funded by Iran. Also, many of the Iranian militias are attacking U.S. bases right now in Syria and Iraq. So I think all of this is what it's telling us is it's directed and coordinated by Tehran. And so this is the first reported meeting. Whether or not there are other reported meetings, we don't know. But certainly this is something to be concerned about, because this is not only involving Israel, but also U.S. troops in the region.
But the global day of prayer for the hostages and the missing, what more can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you, actually, I went to two events yesterday. The first one I went to, Andrew, was something that the international media had been given. They had given the raw footage of what happened on October 7th, and it was just horrifying to see some of these images. Some of these images were actually men in combat gear with, killing a father and wounding two of the two young boys. You got to remember, this is a Saturday morning. They were expecting a relaxing Shabbat, and yet they came. This terrifying day happened. So that was the first thing I saw, and really, what it did to me, Andrew, it moved me that these are people that aren't going to be celebrating birthdays or anniversaries or graduations, and their whole lives are upside down, either ended, or as we saw later in the day, we saw this event, this prayer event for those, a global day of prayer for both the hostages and the missing. And that was a moving event as well. We heard the account of one woman who had actually went on the phone with her daughter while she was being hunted by Hamas. She was shot, and now she's kidnapped, not knowing where she is or what kind of condition she's in. So that was kind of the moving event. And what they're saying is, the Talmud says, one of the rabbis was telling me, one of the worst anguishes you can have is having a person kidnapped, a loved one kidnapped, because there's no closure, and they really they can't go ahead and close that sort of emotional gap. And one people told me the Jewish people are a family, and they want Christians to stand with them. And really the reason for the Global Day of Prayers, they've done everything diplomatically. They're doing negotiations, but the ultimate help is they look to the Almighty. They look to God.
All right, Chris, thank you. And thanks to your entire team for all the special coverage you have brought us in these weeks.